That's right, we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel today with a reaction video, of all things, of Howlcast, featuring Jungle Bob. So let's just jump right in, shall we?
A very popular lizard these days in the pet world is the crested gecko. Number of great reasons for that. Easy to keep animals is the primary one. He's an arboreal creature. He needs an enclosure about 12 inches wide, 12 inches square, but they love height. 18, 24 inches is ideal.
Crested geckos definitely do enjoy height, but 18 to 24 is not that many inches. A lot of people say that I recommend too small of enclosures, like say a leopard gecko in a 20-gallon people say is too small. So you know it's bad when even I'm saying that a 12 by 12 by 18 is pretty bad for a single adult crested gecko, because you gotta think about it, they do get pretty big. For juvenile, sure, that's fine, but you gotta bump it up a little bit. It's one of Exoterra's sizes. Just go up to the next size, and it won't cost you that much more, but your Cresty will probably appreciate it. The next clip has copyrighted music, which I do not have the license to, so I'm gonna voice over Jungle Bob for you. Heavily planted is good for them. They like to hide during the day. They're nocturnal, they come out and eat at night. But for many moms in particular, who are often the barrier to dad and the kids getting a pet lizard in the house, the Crested Gecko doesn't need insects in order to survive. It does not eat mice and meat. What it really likes is fruity types of things, almost a nectar or something. It loves to lap up with its long tongue that's often used to clean up his eyeball when it gets dirty. The crested gecko will therefore live on prepackaged food, which you mix like flour and water, and you put it in a small dish and leave it at the bottom of the tank, and it's all the nutrition the animal will need. This video might only be 2 minutes long, but there is certainly a lot to unpack, and the mother being the barrier to entry is something I'm sure a lot of you have experienced. I've experienced it in my own way, that being that all the mothers send me an email, and they're like, my kid got this reptile. Please take it. Here's the thing, there's two types of these situations. One is where you sneak it around your mother, which if you want to do that, by all means do it. But if you're not an adult and you can't take your animal somewhere else, and if your mother finds it, well, it's game over. And guess what? She's gonna have to scramble, and you're gonna have to scramble and find someone to give it to, because she's not gonna be okay with it. I am a believer in asking for forgiveness and not permission, but it can be a little risky with reptiles, so do it at your own discretion. But the other side of this is when mothers are hesitant, but they really want their kid to get the animal. They understand their kid is willing, but they actually have a fear of them. For some reason, crested geckos, a lot of moms, I don't know if it's a mom thing, have a fear of crested geckos. And I've talked to a lot of them and they're like, I don't know what it is. I just can't get over their hideous faces. I've been told that before. And so even if the mother wants their kid to get the animal, well, guess what? They have this actual fear, rational or not, and they just can't get over it. I've had this happen, especially with snakes, where they're like, yeah, all right, you can get it. I bet it'll help me get over my fear. And I respect these mothers, but turns out they can't do it. They literally can't sleep at night. It's all they think about is there's this animal in their child's room. Again, it's probably irrational, but I don't recommend it. You need everyone in the family to be on board. Unless you're willing to take that risk. Also, the other part, yes, they can survive without insects, but most keepers would probably tell you that you should give them insects anyway. Not freeze-dried, not frozen, not insects you find in the backyard, but quality, healthy, live insects are going to be the healthiest. They not only add variety to, say, a Pangea mix that he's probably talking about, but it also adds some extra nutrition and protein and stuff. So yes, they could survive, but you want them to thrive, and they're going to thrive better with insects.
If you add a little bit of a waterfall, running water, you really recreate his natural habitat, and these animals are very simple and happy to live in captivity.
Yeah, I can pretty much agree with this. They are pretty simple. Fresh water, I mean, you can just mist the enclosure. You don't have to buy a waterfall. One downside of waterfalls is you do kind of have to clean them, especially with crested geckos, because they, well, kind of poop everywhere. And so it's going to get in the waterfall, and it's literally going to start running through the system. It's just like a little fountain, basically, but it's a waterfall theme, of course, because the reptiles are from the jungle, every single reptile out there. But now I'm just being nitpicky. So yeah, just give them fresh water. They'll be good.
A male and a female together, they're not very long lived, 5 to 7 years perhaps, but they are prolific breeders. So oftentimes a coupling of males and females, and they'll breed in the tank, and you'll get babies, which is always a great treat and fun to watch.
What? If I understand correctly, he just said passively as a little side note, it's fun to get two, and then they mate, and then you have babies, and it's kind of fun to watch. It's kind of cool. This is the thing that also happens. People will get a male and a female. Oh, they're a cute little couple. They're in my enclosure. They breed, and then they start shooting out those babies. I'm not really sure how, but sometimes people don't realize that, oh wait, these babies have to be cared for. It's not just a fun little side thing. It's literally a whole nother crested gecko you're gonna have to start raising. And these things grow quickly, but they might not grow at all if you don't take them out immediately, because the male and female is probably going to eat the babies. You got to get them out kind of quickly. Reptiles are quirky like that. Sometimes they see their babies and they're like, ooh, I spot a little snack there, so you got to beat them to it. But why did he even add that in there?
Crested geckos, again, coming from the New Caledonia area, South Pacific forests. Not a very hot environment. They do not need intense light bulbs like some other lizards. Bearded dragons, uromastyx need well over 100 degrees. This animal's fine at room temperature with a little supplemental light at night just to keep them a little warmer. They do not need any kind of ultraviolet light to live. They're nocturnal, therefore they don't need all that.
Okay, bearded dragons don't need well over 100. I think 100 is fine personally, but this video is not about bearded dragons, it's about crested geckos. Now yes, it is true that room temperature can be good for a crested gecko, but room temperature, believe it or not, is not the same in every room. I've been in houses where people keep the house at 60, 59 degrees even, and people that keep it at 84, 85 degrees. I think both of those people are insane, but there's a range. I'd say there's like a 15 to 20 degree range Fahrenheit that people keep their rooms. And I'm guilty of this actually. I used to say in old videos, the center of this enclosure or the cool side can just be room temperature. And then I forget that not everyone's room is the same as my room temperature. Worst case scenario, if your room's too cool, you can just add a little lamp or something. You can't really use a heat mat with them, but you've got a few options. The thing is, if your house is too hot, it can be a bit harder. A lot of people ask, like, I'm in Arizona, we don't really use the AC all that much, or it's not powerful enough, but I want this corn snake or something that needs a cooler environment. It's how do I cool it down? And really your main option that I know of is adding additional ventilation, but this can also be bad with animals like crested geckos because you also need humidity. So ventilating a humid enclosure is just going to be a constant battle of spraying more water and then drying it out with your ventilation. So it is a bit harder. If you have recommendations, feel free to leave them in the comments for cooling down an enclosure when your house is too hot.
So the crested gecko has become quickly one of the most popular reptile pets. Breeders have had a field day with these because they're so prolific in their mating habits that we're getting many different colors.
Yeah, one of the things about breeding crested geckos is it is so easy. Even I, of all people, have created a crested gecko out of thin air. It's a lot of people's first breeder animal because they're like, oh, I want to be a reptile breeder. Well, let's start with crested geckos. You just put two together in a room temperature enclosure, room temperature. You take the egg, put it in a room temperature room, and then a baby pops out. To the point that crested geckos are getting so cheap that I don't even know how people profit off just normal morph crested geckos anymore. But also I don't know if this is true, but I heard in a couple videos that crested geckos have started to become a feeder lizard the same way a green anola is. So some animals will eat not mice when it comes to reptiles. So for example, some snakes will eat lizards and some lizards will eat other lizards. And it's pretty common practice to feed certain lizard species, like mourning geckos as well, to them. And apparently some people have started doing this with crested geckos. Now, I don't feel worse for a crested gecko being eaten than I do a mourning gecko. I mean, they're both geckos, like what's the difference? But it does kind of show that maybe there's a few too many crested geckos. There's also a problem if you're trying to produce the fancy different colors that I think he mentions in this video, is you're going to end up naturally with normal morphs. Especially a good example is ball pythons. Pretty much every clutch, I'm sure not every, but generally if you're breeding ball pythons, you're always going to end up with some normals, even if you're breeding these fancier, more expensive morphs. Well, there's so many normal ball pythons on Earth. What are we gonna do with them? A lot of them end up getting sold to be fed off to other animals. For example, venomous snakes, or I don't know what else eats ball pythons, but things do eat ball pythons, and that makes people uncomfortable. I don't specifically think that's bad as long as you're doing it humanely. Like, I don't see a ball python's life superior to a rat's life, but I mean, I guess that's personal opinion. But just the idea that there are probably a few too many, we can probably cut back the breeding just a little bit. I think there's enough right now in the world, so get a cresty if you want, but I don't recommend just breeding them just for fun. And I can't stop you for being crested geckos. It's your geckos, you can do what you want, but do we really need more crested geckos right now? Now, yes, I have also bred a singular crested gecko. So does that make me a hypocrite? Well, I think the other thing to consider is a lot of people breed the animal and then think about what to do with it, when you should probably have something to do with them beforehand. Are you going to keep them personally for its entire life, in which case cool? Or do you already have people lined up that can possibly buy them, or people you're going to give them to, whether it's a trustworthy friend or a buyer that you're willing to sell to? You shouldn't breed and then be like, all right, time to find people, because you very likely might have to end up just giving it away for free on Craigslist to some random sketchy person who just might be me.
Red ones, flame, harlequin, different spots, all different types of crested geckos are adding a nice variable to the marketplace. Anything that could stay this small, that will hang with you like this, certainly is a pet that kids are going to love to have.
What is his obsession with selling to children in particular? This is like, in my opinion, like rule number one of selling reptiles. Don't sell to the kids. Don't sell when just a kid is there. Like selling in person, yes, kids did want to just buy. They'd be like, all right, here, mister, here's my cash. Give me a ball python. You gotta... I need to talk to someone that's not 9 to 12 years old, which I personally believe that many 9 to 12-year-olds are 100% capable of doing all the care needed for many animals, but ultimately you do need that adult there. You need to make sure that someone is going to be a backup in case, say, a kid falls behind, or if the kid, I don't know, has too much homework or just gets bored. And yes, adults can get bored too, but the problem is if you have a kid who gets a reptile, the parents don't care about it, the kid gets bored of the reptile, what happens to the reptile? The kid releases it, it dies from neglect, whatever. A kid can't really do a meetup on Craigslist by himself or herself to rehome their Crested Gecko that they impulse bought without their parents. So why is he selling to kids? It's kind of weird. And also, even if it's for the kid, you got to keep in. He said that Crested Geckos lived 5 to 7 years. Now that I think of it, I don't actually know the lifespan off the top of my head. But just back to ball pythons because they're easier to talk about as examples. They can live 20, 30, 40 plus years in the right care. If your kid gets it, what's going to happen? Maybe your kid will not go to college, in which case maybe they'll move into an apartment or a rental, or they will go to college. All of those possibilities are most likely going to result in your kid not being able to keep that animal. So guess what? They're going to either dump it on you or try to find someone to give it to, which also might end up in neglect. So no, you got to sell to the parents. That's all. Sorry, I'm ranting a lot in this video. Actually, I'm not sorry about it. Let's keep watching.
It has that wow factor. It looks like it's from outer space almost. I can't say a dinosaur, more from outer space, but his eyes wide open like they are. They're wide open, of course, because he can't close them. They have no opposable eyelid.
I guess I do get in a way why so many mothers are creeped out by them. They are kind of objectively creepy. Creepy things can be cute, but objectively, their eyes are the size of their head, and also they cannot close them. I agree with Jungle Bob here. They are a weird looking animal.
So the Crested Gecko makes an awesome reptile pet, something that we definitely it's growing in popularity, and I think it'll be in the market for years and years to come.
Well, this video is from 2013. They have definitely grown just a wee bit in the market. I feel like everywhere you turn, there are Crested Geckos everywhere. And even though there are many morphs, I'm gonna be honest, most of them look very similar. So that's that. So look, of course, this was just a little 2-minute video of 4 care tips for Crested Geckos, but I just thought that they were kind of weirdly thrown together, where hopefully, yes, someone that's looking for a Crested Gecko isn't just going to click on this video, and that's the whole research process for them. That was a solid 2 minutes, 38 seconds. I'm ready to care for this Crested Gecko for the next 5 to 7 years without my mother's permission in room temperature, and only feed it a mix of flour and water. Look, this has 200,000 views. At least one of these people misinterpreted the whole mix like flour and water and just gave their Crested Gecko flour and water, and their Crested Gecko is probably no longer with us. So that's that. That's my opinions on this Jungle Bob video. What do you think? And also, before we go, although Crested Geckos needing insects is a bit of a debate, what's not a debate is that you need to back up your data. So you see, I had an 8 terabyte hard drive. It was full to the brim of all the videos I've made since 2012. It died. The hard drive completely died. And I was so grateful that I got a backup service. Now you can use any service you want, but I am a Backblaze affiliate if you want to check them out in the link below. You can sign up. It's literally a few dollars a month, and it can back up all of your files that you want onto a cloud. So if your hard drive fails or something, or if you need to do a restoration, you can either download the files, or in my case, you just order a drive from them, and they sent me my entire 8 terabytes of data on a new drive, and it was like the best thing ever. It felt so good. They're not a sponsor of the video. I'm just an affiliate, so I do get a commission if you use my link in the description. Ultimately, you can use any backup service, but I've been really happy with Backblaze, so I wanted to mention them and make a few bucks along the way when you use my link. So thanks for doing that if you decide to. That's all I got. I'm Alex, and thanks for watching.